In this tutorial, we're going to be creating this product animation that you can add to your portfolio. This is the same kind of thing that you can use to charge clients and go out and make money using Blender. I hope you enjoy this tutorial, and with that, let's get into it. Okay, let's get started with this project. I am in a Blender 4.0 scene. I've gone ahead and deleted everything out of the base collection, and then I have a new collection here titled LCA for Lights, Camera, Action. That's going to be the first thing that we're going to set up. That's basically just to hold the camera and also lights and things like that. So the very first thing I want to do is Shift A in the scene and add in an empty. And I'm going to use a cube. And I'm going to scale it up a little bit. And then I'm going to make sure this is in the lights, camera, action. I'm just going to name this to be camera rig. And then I'm going to go into the front view and then I'm going to Shift A, add in my camera. And then I'm going to rotate GY to bring it back. I'm going to parent this to my camera rig. Basically, instead of animating the camera, I like to animate it empty. That way I can go back and control it a little bit easier. So I'm just going to click this, shift click the empty, control P, object key transform. So now whatever we do to the cube, we're also doing to our camera. And then while I'm thinking about it, I'm also going to add in a depth of field. So I'm going to do Shift A and then add in another empty and do a plane axis, scale it up a little bit. I'm going to rename this to be DOF for depth of field. And then I'm also going to make sure I'm in the LCA. So now the camera rig has this parented to it. I don't want the depth of field to be parented. So now this is kind of my default lights, camera, action. I think we're going to do this in a vertical format. So I'm going to click my camera and then go to the resolution. You don't even have to click the camera. Let's make this to be 1080 by 1920. That's just going to be a vertical format. And this is basically the setup. So now for this video, this is replicating some client work that I did. I'll put the client work video up on the screen right now, but we're going to remake this. I can't use the textures from the company. So I did find this model on Sketchfab. I'll put the guy on the screen. It's an FBX file. It needed some work for Blender. So I went ahead and downloaded it. I made some tweaks. It's available for my Patreon for free. I'll go put on the link in the description and on the video right now. So you can go download the Blender file. If you download the Blender file, I'm going to show you a little tip on how to bring something in from that file. So what we're going to do is I'm going to go to this collection, just call it the cans, rename it. Make sure I'm highlighting on it, and then I'm going to click 4, and then we're going to click this append option. So once you download the model, I'm going to go to the place that I have it stored. So if I go here to this cans file, I'm going to click append. And then all we want to do now is just go to object. And then any of these prime cans you can use. I'm going to use orange mango for this video, but there's also a lime, a blue, strawberry. Pick whatever you want for whatever render you're going to do. So we're going to do the prime orange mango and just click append. So now that's brought in the scene. I'm going to do Alt-G to bring it into the middle of the scene. And then if we hold Z and go into the material preview mode, we can see that this can is set up. It also has a geometry node system on it that kind of spread these little water droplets. So if you go over here to click the object and then click the modifiers in this geometry node setup, I'll put the link on the free node or geometry node system that I bought. It was free. I didn't say bought it, but I went ahead and set up this camera or this can to have this. So that way when we set it up, you guys don't have to set it up yourselves, but it's very easy. All you did was download the file, append the same way that we did, except you click geometry nodes and then click the node tree. And so now when you guys bring in this can, it'll already have some water droplets on there. They're not super, I'd say super high quality, but they do add a little bit of detail to our model as we go. So now you got your can in, and now what we want to do is kind of set up our scene. So the thing that I'm going to do first is I'm going to grab this can. I'm going to go into the right view. I use tilde to go to the right, any view I need to go to. So I'm going to go into the right view. R to rotate. I'm going to hold control and do 90 degrees. And then this is basically what I want. Now, we could do this a couple different ways, but what I want to do is just kind of do this manually, and I also want to use Alt-D. I want to make an instance of this object as opposed to duplicating it. That's going to help it to render faster. So what we're going to do is just do Alt-D and then Y to bring it up. I just want there to be a little bit of a gap in between them. Right there, mine's like 3.2. Matter of fact, let's just do 3.2 so we can remember it. 3.2 in the Y. And then what I want to do is let's just do 6 of these cans. So we got 1, 2, let's do Shift R. That's going to duplicate what we just did. So 3, 4, 5, 6. Make sure you're putting these in the cans collection. It's going to help us later. Okay, now what I want to do is I'd like to make sure that these droplets on here are not the same. So I'm just going to, they're all set to seed 0. If I click this one and just set it to 1, This one, and set it to 2. This one, and set it to 3. This one to 4. Oop. And this one to 5. That way they just all have a little bit of a different pattern. Now what I want to do is I'm just going to grab all of these. And I also grabbed, looks like this empty here, or this thing right here. So what I'm going to do is there's a little trick. If you go up here to your outliner, you can click this little icon here, or your filters, and by default the only ones are active, hidden, and render. I'm going to add this little one that looks like a navigation, and what that is a selection option. So now if I go to the top view right now, if I box select everything, I'm getting, you know, my camera, my empty, all this stuff. I just want to be able to click the cans. So I'm going to default or disable this right here on the lights, camera, action. Now I can only grab my cans. So I'm going to write down the numbers that we moved this stuff just so I can remember. We're going to use it because we're going to make a looping animation. So we moved our cans up 3.2 in the Y. And then now if we go back to here, let's grab our cans. Let's just do Alt D in the X. Let's bring it over with a little bit of gap. I want there to be a little bit more gap in the X. So let's just do 1.2. And then I'm going to do another 6 cans this way. So that's 2 rows. So we'll do Shift R, 3, 4, 5, 6. Let's go ahead and do 7 and 8. I think that's going to be enough for us to do what we need to do. Okay. And then to help me remember, I'm going to go up here. If you don't know how to use the annotate tool, just long click on it and then go into annotate. And then you can draw in your view. And then to erase it, you can just hold click, go down to annotate, eraser, get rid of it if you want to. It's very handy. Okay, and then once you're done, make sure you go back and click select box. That's what you're used to using. Great. Now we've kind of got this base set up. Now we just have to light the scene. We got to do some stuff for the looping animation, add some details. So the first thing I'm going to do is let's set up a camera view. I'm going to drag over from this right-hand side like this, and then I'm going to click 0 on our numpad. That puts us in the camera view. So you can see our camera's kind of looking right at the butt of this can. So I'm going to grab my empty, and right now if you try to click it, I'm probably going to do this more than once in the video. You can't because we turned that selector off. So go back, turn the selector on for that collection. So now I'm just going to rotate this in the X like this. And then I'm going to go in the top view and then rotate again. And this is going to just give us a kind of top down view. And I'm going to hit G to just move us over into the view of the cans like so. And then I'm going to do RXX. That's if you want to get from your regular x-axis to the local x-axis of the object, just click the axis twice. It's super handy. You got to be able to know how to do it. So we're going to do something like this. I'm going to rotate this a little bit more in the Z, something like that. Now, it does look like we want a few more cans for this scene. The only other thing I will say is we need to change the focal length of our camera. We've got a lot of distortion going on. So in your camera settings, let's go up to 150 millimeters. And now it zooms way in. You get this kind of no perspective view, which is really popular in a lot of product shots. So now we need to move our camera back. So I'm going to do G, Z, Z to move it back. Let's just bring it all the way back out until we start to not see this can right here. It's GX to bring it over. And then move our camera out again, G, Z, Z. Nice. Okay, that's actually enough. I think that that's a pretty good view in the camera. The cans are small enough that you can tell what they are. They're not too big. So now this looks very uniform and ugly. So I'm going to do a couple things. First of all, I'm going to deselect or turn my selection off for my lights, camera, action. I don't want to be able to do them right now. I'm going to go into the top view, and we just need to stagger these cans, give ourselves a little bit of a better view. So I'm going to select this row, GY to move it up. Select this row, GY to move it up a little bit more. Let's leave the third row where it is. No, let's do GY, bring it up slightly. And then grab this row, GY, bring it down. Grab this row, GY. Let's bring it up, something like this. Grab this row, GY, bring it up. Nice. Okay, now we got a little bit more variation. I actually don't like these two. Let's grab this first row. Click this UV editing. Just go back to your layout tab. I messed that up. So grab these, let's do GY, bring it down till we have something that's off kilter. Nice. And then in this view, I'm going to turn off my overlays. I just want to see what's in the view here. Now I will say we can see the edge of this can. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do go back, turn on our lights, camera, action, grab to empty, and then GY to bring it up. Let's just bring it all the way up to here where we first don't have a can showing. And then let's bring in our camera just a little bit where we got these corners showing out. So GZZ, scooch it in just a little bit. I'm holding shift so that it doesn't go quite as fast. We're going to do that right there. Great. Okay, now you can play with your rotation. If you want to be more on top, do RXX. You could come more like this on the side. I like this right here. Now we kind of have our scene set up. So let's go ahead and make this the rendered view. I'm going to be rendering in cycles. I have a NVIDIA graphics card, so it is basically real time because there's not a lot in this scene. So I'm just going to go into this view, hold Z, go into rendered. I have my scene set up by default because I change this every time for the world strength to be 0. So if you haven't done that, go ahead and set that to 0. Now let's set up some lights. So in our lights, camera, action collection, I'm just going to go into the top view, or actually let's just go into front view, Shift A, add in a light area. Let's bring it up. And then I also want to bring it kind of facing or close to these cans that we've got going on here. And then first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to scale this in the Y direction. I kind of want to have these long strips of lights, something like this. And then I'm going to go in the front view and rotate it. And now what we can do is we can increase the strength. So I'm going to grab our light. Let's go to something pretty high. Let's try 2000 to start. That's kind of just dependent on the scene scale that you've got going on here. And so now I need some more light. I'm going to go ahead and just go into the front view, Shift D to duplicate this, rotate it over. And then what I want to do is basically scale this light up. So I'm going to do SY to make it not quite as big or as elongated. And then we're just going to give this a much larger scale. That's going to give us some light all the way across our objects like that. And then just to see the scene, I'm going to do Control B and grab this. That way we can kind of see what our scene is looking like here. And this is looking pretty good. I am seeing some of these corners. So I'm just going to do GZZ and kind of tighten this up just a little bit. And then also I kind of want to have this to be a little bit more RXX, a little bit more downwards. And then also these are tight against each other. There's not much spacing. You can see how, you know, the end of this can really bleeds into this one. So we're going to do another trick. Let's go ahead and disable our lights, camera, action scene and grab all of our objects. I don't know why I'm not able to grab these. Let's do C to grab our brush select, and let's grab all these objects. Okay. Now, basically what I want to do is I want to move them in this Y direction, but I don't want them to change their size of the cans. So if you go to the options and change only locations, you can now scale them from their individual origins and do SY. Or no, not from individual origin. Let's do from the medium point. If you don't know how to get to this, you can go up here, or excuse me, right here, and you can change this to the medium point. But I have it mapped to a key on my mouse so I can just do this quickly. So I'm going to do medium point and then do SY. That's just going to space them apart, give us a little bit of a gap. And then also these labels, or this metallic shader I set up, is really dark. And it's partly because we just have the scene to be total black, so there's not really anything for them to reflect. But let's just go into the shader for the metallic object. Let's give it a little bit brighter of a metal color and then increase the roughness just a little bit. And that's too much. Let's bring it back down to something like that. So now we should have a little bit of a darkness, you know, there in the gap in between. And also, let's also grab all those objects. I'm going to use C to grab these objects, and then SX. Let's give them just a little bit of breathing room. SY, a little bit more. Nice. Okay, now the one thing I'm seeing is that there is a dark spot up here. Let's just grab our empty for our camera, which is still not able to be selected. Let's grab it, select it, and then GX to just move it over, something like that. Great, that looks cool to me. Now, let's mess with some of our lighting. I'm gonna grab this and then just kind of bring this down. And then it looks like it's really close to some of these. So let's bring this kind of as far this way as we can, like that. That's going to give us this nice highlight. Now, if you hide this, you will notice that this orange line here is basically the reflection of the can on each can. You could go through and do a bunch of work and change it, but I'm just going to leave it the same. So I'm going to put this here, and then let's take this light and bump this up to like 4,000. It's going to give us a little bit more light in our scene. And then now if you want to change our material, let's go here and just mess with like the roughness. You can make it more rough. It's going to look less and less metallic. That right there looks pretty good to me. You could drop it all the way down. You can have them super shiny. You could also play with this metallic value. I have it kind of like a metallic rough texture. So if you bring that up, it kind of helps to preserve the color a little bit as you change your roughness. So yeah, that right there looks good. Let's grab this light and then go into the front view, and let's just try to bring this kind of as far to the left as we can. Let's rotate it. Or actually, we need to make sure that we turn off this location, because if you try to rotate, you're not going to be able to. Nice, because you see as you get down to a small scale, it really is brighter in the bottom half and not in the top. So let's scale this back up, make it nice and long. And then let's increase the brightness to 1500. Great. Yeah, this scene's starting to look really good. I like the way this looks. Nice colors. You can see the labels. So now we just need to vary up the scene and make it not look as static. So we also want to make this loop. So let's go ahead and set up our animations. First, let's set up the looping animation. So to do that, I'm going to go into solid view here, just so we can kind of work a little bit easier. And now what we want to do is to make a looping animation, we need to make the start and end frames be the same. So I already have a keyframe down here in this scene. I'm not sure from what. I haven't set any keyframes. You see this right here. So I'm going to click A to select everything in the scene. Hold A in this, or click A in this area, X, and then delete keyframes. And then now the first thing we want to do is we're going to go to frame 0. We're going to move. The first thing that we need to do is we want to move the camera and the lights all together so that they don't change. So I'm going to grab the lights, both of them, and then we're going to parent them to the camera operator. So we're going to Control P, Object, Keep Transform. So now what happens is if we move this, we're moving everything, including our lights. Okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, let's make this a 300 frame animation. So 300, if you do 30 frames a second, it's a 10-second animation, then it'll loop back. Looks good on a billboard, on a screen, wherever you want to do it. So I'm going to click this empty here. On the first frame, on frame 0, I'm going to click I while hovering in this area and do location and rotation. And then what we need to do is we need to figure out how far we need to move this along the y-axis to be in the exact same starting point. So the first thing I'm going to do is we're going to turn off all of our lights, camera, action, or let's just not be able to click them. Let's grab, I don't know why it does not let me box select from the top view. I do not understand that at all. But if you do C and then grab it with your brush, that works. So we're just going to do that. Now what I want to do is do Alt D, and I'm going to bring this up. And basically I just want to bring it until the spacing of the bottom ones, you know, right where the two meet, kind of looks like the spacing everywhere else. And it doesn't have to be super, super accurate. But we do need to know exactly how much we move it. So I'm going to do 20.2. So I'm just going to type 20.2. And we can figure out the math, how much we move them across, but this is really close and it's gonna work. So now all we have to do is we need to move our empty 20.2 meters, and then it's gonna look the exact same as it just did on the first frame. So let's go back in the top view. I'm gonna turn my lights, camera, action back on to select, and then we're gonna grab this. We're gonna go to the end of our animation, 300 frames, and then we're gonna go GY 20.2. And now if we click Insert, Location, Rotation, I'm going to now go into my editor. So pull down from the top of this window. I'm going to click this and hit E. That's going to pull up our graph editor. And then basically we just have our empty selected. I'm going to click this drop down. I only want to see the Y location right now. And I'm also going to hit N to hide that panel. I don't want this to have any weird speed up and speed down. So if you click A and T and set it to linear, now this is just going to move along it in a straight path. So now what we can do is if we click play, we go to the beginning of our animation and we click play, you can see we start to move across here. I'm also lagging a little bit because I'm recording camera and this, so it's a little bit slower than I would want. So let's just do this. In playback, you can do frame dropping. So now it will basically play, it's still not playing the same speed, but basically all we need to see is if you watch this area, when we get to the end, these pieces keep moving and they don't have any seam. You can tell that right when it hits 300, it might lag a little bit because of all the stuff I'm streaming, but it picks up at the point that's exactly the same. And it really helps if you like zoom in like this, where you can't see what's outside. So now when it hits 300, you should not even be able to really tell. Yep, exactly. Except there's a little bit of a lag from the computer. Okay, so now our animation is set up. we need to set up a couple other animations in addition to that. The first thing that we also need to do is we need to grab our depth of field and let's move it kind of close to where our camera is looking. And then I want to click my camera, go to the camera settings, turn on depth of field, and then we are going to select this. It's sticking up right here. So I'm going to select this depth of field target. And then I'm going to make this a pretty low aperture. I'm going to go like 0.8. And so if you want to check this, we could go into the rendered view and you can see that there is, I'm going to pull this up where everybody can see. You can see we're blurry down here and crisp up here. This is kind of because of the scene scale and why it doesn't make sense, why it ties to actual photography. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to set this to like 0.5. I really want to blur out this front and see this right here. Great. Now let's do a couple other things just to give this some dynamics while it's moving. Basically what we need to do is we need to change a couple pieces to where all of our cans do the same thing at the beginning and at the end. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the first frame. Also, I'm going to go into solid mode here. I'm going to grab this first row. And then also I don't want to select the lights, camera, action. So I'm going to turn this off. Let's grab this first row. I'm just going to click them. I don't know why it's doing that. So let's grab all of these. And on the first frame, I'm just going to insert a location rotation. And then I need this to be the same at the end. So I'm going to do Shift D and X. I'm going to pull that keyframe all the way out to the end. And now 150 is the middle of this animation. So now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go into the front view. Let's just have these kind of rotate in the camera view. If we do RY, we can rotate them around. Let's have them rotate to where they show the label like that. And then let's also do GY and move them forward a little bit. So now if I do insert location rotation, as the animation plays through, those cans start with the prime label showing, they go all the way to the nutrition label, and then they kind of rotate back. The one thing I do want to change is up here in our graph editor, actually I think I'm going to be fine with the way that it is. That should be really good. And then let's do a couple other animations to really help this out. Let's grab this whole middle row, or this third row of cans right here. Like that. Let's go to frame 0, insert location rotation, go to the last frame, and then we are going to RY 360. That's basically going to give them one full rotation, and then insert location rotation. I don't want them to do anything weird, so I'm going to click A in this area of all these cans and click T and set it to linear. That's just going to make them rotate in a solid pattern as we go. And then for these cans right here, the middle cans, for some reason that let me select it. Let's do another animation. Let's go to frame 0, insert location rotation, Shift D and X, bring it to frame 300, just like that. And then in the middle, let's bring this right here to 150. We brought those other ones down a little bit, so let's go GY to bring it up a good bit, something like that. Insert location rotation. So now we've got those three done. Let's have these right here also kind of do that same thing. So these are going up. Let's have this next row right here go downwards some. So grab all of these. Let's go back to frame 0, insert location rotation, Shift D and the X, bring this over to frame 300. I want to go to 150. We just took this one up, so let's bring this one down. So GY, I'm also going to make this really subtle. And then insert location and rotation. And then let's add one more rotation animation. So let's grab all these cans right here, go back to frame 0, insert location rotation, Shift D, X, bring that to frame 300. And then what we're going to do, we're going to now go to 150. And then let's just go right, or no, let's go front view. It doesn't really matter. We're just going to go R, Y. We're going to have this rotate toward the camera. Insert location rotation. And that should be a good amount of variance. So I'm going to close all these windows up to hopefully help my PC not be struggling so bad right now with everything I'm doing. Let's bring this over. So now if we kind of scrub through this animation, you've got lots of moving pieces. And the good news is because we made everyone have the same starting keyframe and last keyframe. Also, we've got 2 can rows that are just completely stationary. That's going to bug me. Let's go ahead and fix it. Let's go back in here. Let's check which ones aren't doing anything. It's the 2nd and the 5th row. So which ones are doing a complete turnaround? The 3rd row is. Okay, so let's make this 5th row also do a complete turn. So just select the 5th row, insert location rotation, go to the N, R, Y, 360. And now we're going to insert another location rotation. And then I'm going to go back to my graph editor, go to E, and then make sure everything is selected for those cans. A, T, set it to linear because I just want it to be a normal motion. So now if I scrub through the animation, those cans are all doing something. Basically that last frame isn't, but I'm fine with that. But I do want this to have something going on. So our first thing kind of rotates in and back. The 3rd one just moves. Let's have the 2nd row just move front to back also. I'm going to grab each of these, go to frame 0, insert location rotation. We're just going to duplicate this, Shift D and the X to the very last. Go to frame 150, GY. Wait, let's just look and see where the stuff around it moves. So the first one's coming down. I kind of want to have this one just slightly coming down too. So let's just do GY and then let's rotate it in the Y direction a little bit away from the camera just for fun. Insert location rotation. Now, we have got a very good amount of animation going on the scene. So I'm going to make this another 3D viewport, go into the camera view, and then let's go ahead and disable all of our overlays, hide the little toolbar with T, and then we're going to make this a solid view to kind of help our PC out a little bit, not rendering so much. And then let's go here. Also, I can see I lost my camera again. I'm just going to turn that off real quick. Okay, get that out of the way. Now, the last thing that we're going to do is just kind of go over some render settings. I'm going to go here to the output. You would want to select a file where you want to save this and render it out. I'm going to set this up now because I have to render this anyway. So let's go to YouTube. Let's just render it out here. I'm going to render mine out as a video. It's probably smarter to render this out on as a picture sequence, so PNG. So if you set it to FMPEG, go to your encoding, change this to MPEG-4. That's going to make this an MP4 file. I'm going to leave my output quality as perceptually lossless. That might help make this a little bit better of a render. As far as my render settings go, there's not a lot of variation as far as there's no transmission. There's not a lot of need for multiple bounces. So I'm going to do something like 250, and then I'm going to leave denoise on for this. And then, yeah, that's basically it. I'm rendering it in cycles. I do have depth of field. Oh, that's really important. We need to go back and we need to make sure that our depth of field is parented to our camera because we don't want it to just go out of focus. So I'm going to be able to select it, grab this, grab our camera rig, Control P, Object Keep Transform. Perfect. So now as we scrub through this, you get to the very end, this frame right here. If you click 300, and then if I go to frame 1 right here, it moves like a tiny bit, frame 0. There you go. Now they line up. Let's go into our rendered view, check if there's anything we want to change. You could select all these and you could add some size to your droplets if you want to select them all, and then go to the modifiers. Let's just try something real quick. If we select all these like this, I'm also going to deselect my lights, camera, action. Now you've got all these selected. If you change the size and hold Alt and then press Enter, it will apply it to all of them. I'm not going to do it because I'm worried about my PC crashing at the end of this video, but that's how it would work. This render looks really good. Let's try bumping up this light real quick just to see if we need a little bit more light in our scene. Let's try making this like 3,000, 4,000. Yeah, I think that looks really good. So now if you want to play with your materials, you can adjust your roughness. Like I said, I do have metallic there. You can change your depth of field on your camera. If you want to set this to something like 0.3, again, do this till you like how it looks. It's just going to depend on the scene scale that you have going on. So yeah, this is the render. I will put up a finished render on the screen of what the results look like. Hopefully you enjoyed following along with this video. This is the type of stuff you could totally do for clients and charge them. You would get their texture files from them. You could set it all up. I hope you enjoyed the video. And with that, we will see you in the next one.